So the water pump that we use for this setup is a 1/8 horsepower cascade pump. This is an inline pump that is placed, of course, in line. This is not submersible. This is something that you place in line. And this right here, it connects and it's going to be pulling water from the sump tank. And the sump tank, we have it positioned right next to the pump. So we have an outlet that is connected, or then actually an inlet that is connected to the sump tank, which is an 1.5-inch pipe with an 1.5-inch uniseal that is connected to that. And if you want to know, you have to drill that with a 2.5-inch hole saw. So 2.5-inch hole saw, 1.5-inch uniseal, and 1.5-inch pipe that is connected to the suction portion of the pump. From there, water will be pumped up and filtered. Understand me, filtered through what is known as a bubble wash bead filter. This is both a mechanical filter or a straining filter, which is going to remove the solids out of the system. And also it has biological and nitrifying properties as well for nitrification, places where nitrifying bacteria can colonize. So this is a 2-in-1 unit, and it works very effectively. Now, the places where the nitrifying bacteria and the solid removal takes place is all in the bead. So when you have one of these bubble wash bead filters, what you do is it comes with multiple packages of beads. You open those up and you put those inside of the bead filter. You put them all in there, and then they'll eventually settle to where they're supposed to be at. And once you turn the system upside or upright, then they're gonna fall all the way to the bottom chamber of the bubble wash bead filter. So what we did is we put the bead filter on top of, we have it leveled, we leveled it out, and we put concrete blocks underneath the bead filter to support it. So that's where we placed it at. And then from there, once we place it on there, we put a few of the connections on there. There's a straining piece that has holes, slits in it that goes on the bottom, and there's one that goes on the top as well. Just insert those in there, and you can use some pliers to get those really, really tight. So we'll ensure that there's no leaks that occur. Now, what I want to add on here is also the plumbing from the pump connecting to the bead filter. We want to make sure we have a check valve, a water check valve that is installed in between those two, because if the system cuts off, those beads are going to be at the top and they're going to rush down to the bottom of the filter, and then they will eventually try to make their way back into your pump. So we want to make sure there's a check valve there to prevent anything from entering or coming backwards into the pump. So check valve is a must. Now, with that being said, there's one extra air inlet that we want to add to the unit, and you can see it's positioned right in the center. It's just an extra air valve to when we're backwashing the system, we can open that up and allow air to rush in and mix with the water and disrupt the solids and shake the beads so the solids can be released from the beads. So that's pretty much how that works. Very simple. Just make sure you have some sealant tape on there and put that on there nice and tight, and then that'll be it. And from there, we have the top portion of the bead filter, and that is basically where the flow is going to exit. And all the filtered water is going to leave through that portion of the filter. Now from there, what we do is we plumb it down, then we connect it to both the fish tank and the floating raft. So what we did is a split flow on this system. And what we did was direct one portion of the flow to the floating raft unit with a ball valve on there. And then the other portion was directed to the fish tank. And those have ball valves on there where we can control the flow. Now you'll learn about the split flow more in the aquaponic guide course, and you'll typically would not do a split flow for a floating raft setup, but because of the configuration of this system and the pump is much larger than what we would need in a traditional aquaponic setup, that gives us the ability to go ahead and split the flow, because we would have excessive flow. If you want to use this filter, the pump is usually a bit larger than what is required for the typical aquaponic system of this size. So in normal circumstances, we would not use a split flow for a floating raft, but because, like I said, the pump is a bit oversized for this system, we have extra flow that we can work with. So this configuration calls for a split flow to make it easier.